Rain hammered against the barred windows of Blackthorn House, but Seraphina Vale barely noticed. She had stopped counting the storms months ago. Inside the private asylum, every day looked the same. Locked doors, tasteless meals, cold corridors, and staff who treated suffering as entertainment. She was not insane. That was the cruelest part. Her stepmother, Marcella Voss, had placed her there after Seraphina refused to surrender the last property her father had left in her name. Marcella had forged medical reports, bribed physicians, and convinced a court that grief had driven Seraphina into madness. Now all Seraphina possessed was a silver locket. Her father had pressed it into her hand before his death. "Whatever happens," he had whispered, "never let them take this from you." She had never understood why. Tonight, however, she was about to find out. The basement door opened with a metallic groan. Gideon Rusk entered carrying a folder. "You have visitors." Seraphina looked up from the thin mattress. "Who?" Gideon smiled without warmth. "Your stepmother." Marcella entered wearing a flawless black coat, as though she had come to a charity gala rather than a place where she had imprisoned her stepdaughter. "You look terrible," she remarked. Seraphina stood. "You did this." Marcella's expression remained composed. "I gave you a place to live. You stole my home. I protected the family from your instability." Seraphina laughed bitterly. "If I were truly unstable, you wouldn't be so afraid of what I know." For the first time, Marcella's composure cracked. She stepped closer. "Sign the property transfer tomorrow." "No. You will." "No." Marcella leaned toward her. "Then you'll remain here until nobody remembers your name." She turned to leave. Seraphina's fingers tightened around the locket. "Why are you so frightened of this?" Marcella stopped. Her eyes fell to the silver pendant. For one fleeting second, genuine fear crossed her face. Then she walked away. Seraphina watched the door close. She finally understood. The locket mattered. Before she could examine it, the building suddenly trembled with distant thunder, or something much heavier. Car doors slammed outside. Voices echoed through the corridors. Then silence. Gideon rushed past her door. Seraphina heard a terrified voice from the reception hall. "Mr. Crowe, this is a private medical facility. You can't simply—" A deeper voice interrupted. "Where is Seraphina Vale?" Seraphina froze. She knew that name. Everyone did. Damian Crowe was the youngest billionaire in the city, the merciless CEO behind Crowe Holdings. Rumors said he controlled businesses that respectable men pretended did not exist. Competitors disappeared from markets after crossing him. Powerful people lowered their voices when speaking about him. And now he was here. Footsteps approached. Her door opened. Damian stood beneath the harsh ceiling light, dressed in a black suit untouched by the rain. His gaze moved from her bruised wrists to the threadbare clothes she wore. Something dangerous settled behind his eyes. "Who did this?" Seraphina lifted her chin. "Why do you care?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, his gaze fell to the silver locket. His expression changed. "Where did you get that?" "My father." Damian stepped closer. "What was his name?" "Elias Vale." Silence. Then Damian quietly exhaled. "I knew him." Seraphina stared at him. Before she could ask another question, shouting erupted upstairs. Damian looked toward the door. Then back at her. "Pack nothing." "I don't have anything worth packing." His jaw tightened. "You do now." He removed his coat and placed it around her shoulders. Seraphina instinctively stepped away. "I'm not going anywhere with you." Damian met her eyes. "You don't have to trust me." He extended his hand. "But you are never spending another night in this place." For the first time in years, Seraphina saw something unfamiliar in a man's eyes. Not pity, not suspicion, fury. And somehow, that frightened her less than kindness ever had. She took his hand. Neither of them knew that the moment she walked out of Blackthorn House, The war over her father's secrets had begun. Seraphina expected Damian Crowe's mansion to feel like another prison. Instead, the gates opened onto a sprawling estate illuminated by warm golden lights. Security guards stood along the drive, but nobody grabbed her arm or ordered her where to walk. When Damian opened the car door, he simply stepped aside. "You're free to leave whenever you want," he said. She studied him suspiciously. "Then why bring me here?" "Because tonight, it's the safest place in the city." "I don't know you." "I know. You expect me to trust you?" "No." His answer startled her. Damian walked inside without demanding that she follow. After a moment, Seraphina entered on her own. A housekeeper named Iris Bellamy greeted her with quiet warmth and immediately noticed the bruises around her wrists. "Would you like something to eat?" Seraphina hesitated. Nobody at Blackthorn House had ever asked what she wanted. "Tea," she whispered. "And something sweet?" Seraphina almost smiled. "Strawberry cake." Iris nodded as though this were the most important order of the evening. Damian watched from across the room. "You remembered?" Seraphina turned. "I mentioned it once. I remember everything you say." The statement unsettled her more than it should have. Later, a doctor examined her injuries and confirmed what Damian already suspected. Seraphina had been denied proper treatment and had suffered repeated physical abuse. Damian listened without interrupting. When the doctor left, Seraphina found him standing beside the window. "You're angry." "Yes." "At me?" "Never." She looked down. "Then why?" "Because someone convinced you that cruelty was normal." His words struck deeper than any accusation. That night, Seraphina couldn't sleep. Every creak of the mansion reminded her of locked doors. She finally left her room and found Damian in his study, still working. "You're awake." "So are you." "I thought rich people slept." "Not people like me." She noticed the scar along his hand. "You've been hurt." "Many times." "By whom?" "People who thought they could take what belonged to me." Seraphina's fingers instinctively touched her locket. Damian noticed. "May I see it?" She hesitated before handing it over. He turned the pendant over carefully. "There is a hidden compartment." Her breath caught. "What?" Damian pressed a tiny indentation beneath the clasp. The locket clicked open. Inside the silver frame was a miniature photograph of Elias Vale standing beside a much younger Damian. Seraphina stared. "You really knew my father?" "Yes." "How?" "My mother worked with him." Damian's voice became quieter. They were investigating a financial network that powerful people wanted buried. Seraphina remembered Marcella's frightened expression when she saw the locket. "What happened to them?" "My mother died first." "And my father?" "He was murdered 3 weeks later." The room seemed to shrink around her. "Who killed them?" "I don't know yet." Seraphina looked at him. "But you think Marcella knows?" "I know she knows something." He handed the locket back. "And whoever wants that secret buried knows you're alive." A crash sounded downstairs. Damian immediately moved. Seraphina heard hurried footsteps and saw several guards rush through the corridor. "Stay here." "No." He stopped. She held up the locket. "This is about me. I'm coming." For a moment, Damian looked ready to argue. Then he nodded. They descended together. A frightened guard stood near the entrance holding an envelope. "There was no one at the gate," he said. "This was left on the ground." Damian opened it. Inside was a single photograph. Seraphina stared at the image. It showed her leaving Blackthorn House beside Damian. On the back, someone had written, "You took her from US. Now we'll take her back." Damian's expression hardened. Seraphina expected fear. Instead, she felt something unexpected. For the first time since entering Blackthorn House, she wasn't alone. Damian folded the photograph. "They've made a mistake." "What mistake?" He looked directly at her. They threatened the one person I won't allow anyone to touch. Seraphina's heartbeat quickened. Before she could answer, every light in the mansion went out. And somewhere beyond the gates, a gunshot shattered the night. The mansion plunged into darkness. Seraphina heard the guards shouting, followed by another gunshot outside. Damian caught her wrist and pulled her behind the stone staircase just as a bullet shattered the glass doors. "Stay here." "No." His eyes flashed. "Seraphina. I've spent 3 years being told what to do. I'm not starting again." For 1 tense second, Damian simply stared at her. Then he handed her a small flashlight. "Stay behind me." The guard secured the entrances while Damian moved through the darkness with frightening precision. He didn't panic. He didn't raise his voice. He simply gave instructions, and every man around him obeyed. Seraphina realized the rumors had been true. Damian Crowe wasn't merely a powerful businessman. People feared him because he knew how to command danger. A guard suddenly appeared. "Sir, the shooter escaped." Damian's expression remained cold. "Any injuries?" "None." His shoulders relaxed slightly. Seraphina noticed. He hadn't asked about the property. He hadn't asked about his men. His first concern had been whether she was safe. That realization unsettled her. The lights returned minutes later. Damian walked toward her. "Are you hurt?" "No." He examined her anyway. When he saw her trembling hands, his expression softened. "You're safe." Seraphina swallowed. "I wasn't afraid for myself." "What were you afraid of?" "That they would hurt you." Damian went completely still. Nobody had ever said those words to him. Before either could speak, Iris rushed into the room carrying another envelope. This was found beneath the front gate. Damian opened it. Inside was a single page. "Ask Seraphina what her father hid beneath the old Vale estate." Seraphina's blood ran cold. "I don't know anything about that." Damian looked at her carefully. "I believe you." "You do?" "Yes." That simple answer nearly broke her. 4 years, every authority figure had treated her words as evidence of madness. Damian treated them as truth. The next morning, he took her to the abandoned Vale estate. The house stood beyond a rusted iron gate, surrounded by overgrown gardens. Seraphina hadn't seen it since her father's funeral. She expected grief. Instead, she felt anger. "This was my home. It still is." She looked at him. "You bought it." "No." Damian handed her a folder. "I stopped the sale before Marcella could transfer the title." Seraphina stared at the documents. For the first time, something stolen from her was being returned. Inside the house, memories surfaced everywhere. The staircase where her father used to carry her after she fell asleep, the library where he taught her chess, the fireplace where they spent winter evenings. Then she remembered something. The study. She hurried inside. Her father's desk remained untouched beneath a layer of dust. Seraphina ran her fingers along its edge. He always said the safest hiding place was somewhere everyone could see. Damian examined the shelves. "Books." She nodded. Together, they searched. Behind a row of legal volumes, Seraphina discovered a concealed compartment. Inside was a black ledger. Damian opened it. Names filled the pages. Bankers, judges, police officials, politicians. And at the bottom of the final page was one name that made Seraphina's breath stop. Marcella Voss. Beneath it was another. Adrian Crowe. Damian's father. His face hardened. "My father." Seraphina looked at him. "Your father was involved?" "Apparently." A folded document slipped from the ledger. Damian opened it. It was a letter written by Elias Vale. "If my daughter ever finds this, tell her the truth. I did not trust the people closest to me. I trusted only Adrian's son." Damian stared at the final sentence. Then Seraphina noticed the date. The letter had been written 2 days before her father's death. She looked at Damian. "Your father may have betrayed mine, Damian's voice was quiet. Or he may have tried to save him. A sound came from upstairs. They both froze. Someone was inside the house. Damian reached for Seraphina's hand. The footsteps stopped directly above them. Then a woman's voice drifted through the empty corridor. Seraphina. Her blood turned cold. She knew that voice. Marcella had found them. Seraphina. Marcella's voice floated through the corridor. Damian immediately stepped in front of Seraphina. "Stay behind me." The study door burst open. Marcella entered with 2 armed men, but the confidence on her face disappeared when she saw the ledger in Damian's hand. "You found it." Seraphina stared at her. "You killed my father." Marcella's expression hardened. "Your father was going to destroy everything. He trusted you. He trusted the wrong people." Damian stepped forward. "You lied about Seraphina's condition. You imprisoned her to obtain this evidence." Marcella laughed bitterly. "You think you're different from us?" Damian's eyes narrowed. "I am." "No. You're your father's son." The word struck him, but Seraphina reached for his hand. "Don't listen to her." Marcella looked between them. "That girl has always been your weakness." Seraphina answered before Damian could. "No. I'm the reason he remembered he had a choice." For once, Marcella had no reply. The confrontation ended quickly. Damian's security team surrounded the house, and Marcella's men surrendered when they realized they had nowhere to escape. But Marcella still had one weapon. She revealed that Damian Crowe had not murdered Elias Vale. He had tried to expose the Obsidian Circle, but someone inside the organization had ordered Elias's death and framed Adrian. Damian stared at the ledger. "All these years, I hated my father for something he didn't do." Marcella nodded. "And while you were hunting shadows, the real mastermind became untouchable." "Who?" Marcella smiled. "You already know him." Before she could say more, police arrived with warrants and arrested her for fraud, unlawful confinement, and conspiracy. The truth finally began to surface. The asylum was shut down. The corrupt director was prosecuted. The forged medical records were exposed. And Seraphina's name was cleared publicly. Yet Damian refused to celebrate. He found her standing alone in the garden of her restored childhood home. "You should be happy," he said. "I am." "But—" She looked at the house. "I spent so long dreaming about getting this place back that I never imagined what I would do after." Damian approached her. "You can do anything." She smiled faintly. "I don't know how to live normally." "Neither do I." She laughed. "That isn't comforting." "I wasn't trying to comfort you." He took her hand. "I was trying to tell you that you don't have to figure it out alone." Her eyes softened. "You really mean that?" "Every word." Seraphina leaned against him. For the first time, home wasn't a building. It was a person. Months passed. Damian transformed Crowe Holdings, cutting ties with the criminal networks his family had inherited. Seraphina became involved in helping former asylum patients obtain legal support and rebuild their lives. Their relationship grew without either of them forcing it. Damian spoiled her shamelessly. He sent breakfast to her office when she forgot to eat. He filled her library with first editions she had admired once. When she mentioned wanting to see the ocean, he arranged a quiet weekend by the sea. But the greatest surprise came one evening when Damian brought her back to the Vale estate. The old mansion had been renovated. Seraphina looked around in confusion. "What did you do?" "I restored it. For me. For us." She turned toward him. Then she noticed the plaque beside the entrance. "The Vale House. A home for those who have nowhere else to go." Her eyes filled with tears. "You turned my father's house into a shelter. You lost years because someone convinced the world you were worthless." He touched her cheek. "I wanted this place to prove them wrong every day." She kissed him. This time, there was no fear behind it. Only choice. 1 year later, Damian proposed in the same garden where he had first promised she was safe. Seraphina accepted. Their wedding was small, joyful, and nothing like the grand spectacle the city expected from a billionaire. The final surprise came after the ceremony. Damian placed a small wooden box in her hands. Inside was the original key to the Vale estate, and a letter from Elias. "My daughter, if you are reading this, then you survived." Seraphina could barely breathe. "I hoped you would find someone who would protect your freedom, not control it. Someone who would remind you that love is not a cage." She looked at Damian through tears. "You knew about this?" "I found it after the house was restored." "And you waited?" "Until you were ready." She closed the letter and embraced him. Years later, people remembered Damian Crowe as the ruthless CEO who had once terrified the city. But Seraphina remembered something else. She remembered the man who had opened a locked door. The man who never demanded her trust. The man who gave her back her home, her name, and eventually her heart. And when their daughter was born, they brought her home to the Vale estate. The former asylum had become a distant memory. The mansion had become a sanctuary. And the woman everyone once called broken stood at the garden gate, holding her husband's hand and watching their little girl run through the sunlight. Seraphina smiled. She had not been rescued because she was weak. She had been rescued long enough to discover her own strength. And unexpectedly, the ruthless man who entered her life as a protector became the man who spent the rest of it making sure she never needed saving again.